Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Tamara. If you're new here, my channel primarily consists of beauty, a little bit of fashion, and a little bit of lifestyle. Today we are doing a beginner-friendly step-by-step makeup tutorial. So this video is for the girls that want to do makeup but don't want all those complex steps that the girls usually be doing, and for the girls that don't really know how to do their makeup but want their makeup to look nice and want it to be nice and simple. This tutorial is for you. So to get started, we are going to need some brushes. I personally like to use Real Technique brushes. They're pretty affordable and really good quality. You are also going to need some sponges. So these are Real Techniques as well. And then obviously you're going to need all of your makeup. I'm going to actually start by pulling my hair back. You're going to see this leopard headband a whole lot as I go through my phase of braids. We are going to start with primer. I'm using the NYX Hydra Touch primer. I typically have dry patches, so I like to use a more hydrating primer. And then I just spread that all over the face so it hits any of those dry patches that I do have. It is the winter, so I do have dry lips, so I'm going to throw on some Vaseline before I get started on this lovely tutorial. So we are going to start off with brows. I like to use a Sonia Kashuk brush. On one end is a spoolie. I like to just brush out my hairs, even them all out, and do that on both sides. And then I'm going in with my tried and true Colourpop brow pencil. I need to pull in my mirror though, because if I don't pull it in, I'm not going to be able to see what I'm doing. I like to just line the bottom of my brows and then I'll line the top. You also kind of want to watch how you hold the brush, because depending on where you hold it, it can end up getting a little too dark. So once I finish lining my eyebrows, I'll go back in with that same liner and just kind of make little hair strokes to fill in the areas where hair is non-existent. So I'm just trying to make them look as full as possible, but not too dark. And just to make it look a little more natural, I will just go back through with the spoolie and kind of just brush out the areas where I did put in those little hair marks. I feel like once you see someone do their brows once, you probably don't really need to see them do it again, because I really have not changed up the way that I do my brows. So this may be the only time that you see like an in-depth brow video, but if you would like a more in-detailed one, comment down below and let me know. So next I'm going to go in and clean up my brows with a concealer. The concealer that I like to use is really close to my skin tone. So I'll put it on the back of my hand just to like warm it up a little bit, and it's easier to control for me. Then I'll go in with my Wet n Wild brush, and then I will just line the top of my brows. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom as well. Basically, I'm just trying to go through and clean up like any mistakes that I made and have it look like defined. And then I usually blend this out with the same brush, and then when I do it on the bottom, I will kind of blend it down into my eyelid as well. Now that the brows are all filled in, I'm going to go in with my Maybelline Fit Me. I think this is in the color Spicy Brown. I actually started using this color when I lived in Texas, so it might be a little bit dark. The one downfall to the Maybelline Fit Me, although it is a super good affordable foundation, I think it's like $6. It's a great starter foundation. It doesn't have a pump, so you just have to pour it on like the back of your hand, or I guess if you have like a little palette thing, you can always do it on there. And I go in with my brush and then just dab it all over the face. And the match actually isn't too bad. I think once you start blending it out, it really starts to blend into my skin, so you can't tell that the shade is a little bit darker. And what I like to do with my brush is I like to pat it into my skin. I'm using a Morphe, I think is it an M6 or a Y6 brush? I know they changed it and discontinued this brush, but I like to pat it into my skin instead of swiping it. And I'll bring it down into my neck and into my ears, so there's just not any areas where it looks like you missed the spot. I think I'm actually going to just go in with a little bit more product and just add a little bit more coverage. I have a little scar under my eye that I like to cover up. So next we're going to need that sponge. You want to make sure that your sponge is damp, not wet. You want to make sure if you squeeze it, there's nothing coming out of it, because it just helps blend a lot better when it is damp. I'm actually just going to use one concealer today. Typically I'll use two, but I'm just going to go with one today to keep it super simple. So I'm going to go with the lighter one since I like that highlighted look. I like to bring the concealer down the side of my nose to sculpt that out a little bit. And then I'll bring it right underneath my eye and then kind of lift it to give myself a lifted look. And then same thing on the other side. And then I'll also put it under my chin, on my chin, and then onto my forehead. And then sometimes I'll bring it down my nose, depending on the mood I'm in. I guess I didn't do that today. It is a little bit light, so I think I'm going to go in with the deeper shade and just put a little bit at the bottom to darken it up just a little bit. Typically what I'll do is I'll do the darker shade and then the lighter shade, but since I'm just doing one today, I'm just going to add a little bit to the lighter shade just so it's not so ashy. And you want to let that dry down a little bit, because when you dry it down, it gives you a lot better of a result. And you'll have a little dance breakdown while you're waiting too. So I'm going to start blending it out with my Real Technique sponge. I like to start at the chin, because I feel like when I start on my under eye, there's just a lot of product, and then it just ends up putting a lot of product into areas where I don't need a lot of product. Yeah, it definitely looks a little ashy, which is why I'm making that face. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it. And then I go into my forehead, and then I'll bring that down the bridge of my nose if I didn't already put product there. And then we go into the under eye. So this is the part that takes a while. So as you can see, it spreads like crazy and it's pretty light. So I'm just going to keep blending it out until it like really goes into my skin. I like to lift upwards to give me like that lifted look. And then I will also go over my eyelid as well. So it gives me a little bit of coverage that way. And like sometimes I won't have to go in and add concealer when I'm ready to do my eyeshadow. And plus it makes it a lot easier to spread to when you have an additional area to add it to. So I'm going to be here blending for a while, because as you can see, it's fairly full coverage and it's still just looking like it's sitting on my skin. So I'm just going to be blending for a little bit. This is always the hardest part. You want to take as much time as you can blending, because you don't want it to look like, okay, my concealer's right here, my bronzer's right here. You want it to actually look like it's blended into the skin. So take your time with this part. Next, we're getting into setting powder. I just can't get away from high-end setting powders. I feel like I haven't found a drugstore one that I love, so I always say just, go the high-end way. I feel like it just gives you a really nice finish, but I mean, I know there are some really nice drugstore ones that I just haven't found yet. So same thing, I'm going to go in with my setting powder sponge. I did damp it a little bit, and I am not really a baking person. I just like to press it into my skin. So I'll go down the bridge of my nose and then right under my eye and into my eyelid. So I basically just follow the pattern that I did with my concealer. And then I'll do some on my chin. And then we will go into the forehead as well. Because I am 30 now, I do have very present smile lines, unfortunately. So the areas that I actually do like to let my powder sit in is in my smile lines. And then I'll also go over the bridge of my nose, once again, to give myself that lovely little highlighted look. And now we're on to bronzer. I personally think that bronzer just brings the whole face together. I like to use the Makeup Revolution. I think it's the Splendor Matte. It's a huge palette. The color's really nice. I'm going to go in with this Real Techniques. It's like a blush bronzer brush. Basically, you want to use a dense brush. And then I go all around the perimeter of my forehead. You have to be super careful with this bronzer because of the fact that it is so pigmented. Like, as soon as you put it on, you see it appears. And then I go right underneath my cheeks and then into my jawbone. So basically you just want to give yourself definition so everything just looks like sleek. I don't know if the sleek is the best word, but basically you want to give yourself shape. You want to chisel out your face a little bit. And then I just keep blending it out because it is so heavy and I just want to make sure that it doesn't look too murky. So my base is all done and we are going to get into the eye snap. I like to start by priming my eye with a concealer. There are eye primers, but I just prefer to use my concealer because I feel like it works just as well. The concealer helps with making sure that your eyeshadow is popping a little bit more, so it just really helps with like the pigment. And with the concealer, I like to go with a color that basically matches my skin, so it doesn't look like super ashy or throws off the color completely. I go in with my Wet n Wild brush and I just blend that up into my eyelid and basically to the bottom of my eyebrow. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Next, I'm going to go in with my Jackie Aina palette. If you don't have it, you need it, especially if you are a woman of color, because These colors really complement our skin, and plus ABH palettes are really good quality. We're gonna keep the look super simple today. So instead of using multiple colors like I would usually use, we are just going to use 2 colors. I'm gonna start off with ginger. It's like a brown, it's like a lighter brown. I'm gonna use my Wet n Wild brush, and then I'm going to dab that on the outside of my crease, and then I'm just going to blend it all throughout my crease. I'm starting off pretty light. Because it is pretty light, I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more just to deepen my crease. I always like to use browns because I feel like it gives you really good depth in your crease, and almost every color that you use goes with brown as well. That is my preference, but you can really use any color for this step. Honestly, if you wanted to keep it super simple, you could really just go with the brown, but we're going to add a little bit of shimmer to this. I'm going to actually use my brush that comes with my ABH palette. There's a side that's denser, and it's just easier to use with shimmer shades. So we're going to go in with Trust Issues. It looks white, but you're in for a surprise. That is correct. It is gold. Jackie Aina being crafty. So I'm just going to pat that all across my eyelid here. And I'm really just like packing it in the areas where there is like no eyeshadow already. So because those lines do kind of end up being choppy, I like to go back in with the brush that I was previously using and just go back into my crease so everything just blends together better. Sometimes if the brown really starts to fade, then I'll just go back in with the brown again and add a little bit more into the crease. So like I said, this eye look is super simple, super easy, just 2 shades, and it looks good. So I'm actually going to use my liquid liner from Huda Beauty. I just didn't want to go and find my drugstore one. I have to pull in my mirror a lot closer, otherwise there's no way that I would be able to line my eyes. So I like to use a liquid liner, but honestly liquid liners are a little bit challenging to use, and I'm still working on how to use them. So I would suggest like maybe getting like a pot. There's a lot of drugstore ones. I used to use the L'Oreal Infallible, I think it was. But it's a lot easier to control than a liquid liner. Sometimes liquid liners, like if you don't know how to control them, can kind of just flop all over the place, which is how the previous Huda Beauty liner used to be. But this liner is actually a lot easier to use. It's like a pen, and it's very like precise and easy to line your eye with. So we are going to go in with some lashes next. So there's a couple different ways that you can do it. I'm going to show you one of 2 ways. So the way that I typically do it is I will take my lash glue and then I will just line right over my eyeliner. Sometimes this can get a little messy though. If you put a little too much glue, it will throw off your clean liner look, so you always have to be careful with that. And then the second way is you just apply it to the back of the eyelash. I think this is the way most people do it. So with both of these, you want to wait about 30 seconds and let the glue dry on the lash and also on your eyelid. So I just use my fingers and I just pop it right on top of my eyelashes. And you want to make sure to press your fake lashes in with your natural lashes. Same thing on the other side, except this time the glue is on the lash and you're just going to stick that right above your natural lashes and just press in your natural lashes with your fake lashes. So I know I mentioned mascara earlier, but totally forgot to put it on. So usually I'll put on my mascara before I put on my lashes while the lash glue is drying, and that just helps my natural lashes blend in with my fake lashes. So now I'm just gonna put it on after. So I'm mainly trying to get on my natural lashes, but I'm probably getting a little bit on my fake lashes as well, and that's okay. And you just want to press those 2 things together. Obviously you want to be careful because the black is going to get all over your fingers. So obviously we have a bunch of foundation on our lips, so I want to go in with a little paper towel. It can be a little bit damp, and you just want to wipe off that foundation because sometimes that will mess with the color that you are going for. And I'm going to go in with a brown liner. I think this color is Koala. And I'm going to line a little bit under my lips, so it's almost like you're overlining them, but not really. And then we're going to do the same thing on the top. I feel like I don't really need to explain lip liner, but you know, I'm just trying to be as detailed as I can for the girls. And of course, we are going to go in with a pink lip gloss. This is from Maybelline. I think it's called the Lip Lifter, and it's in the color Stone. And you're just going to apply that right in the center there, right above the liner. I put it on the top and the bottom. And then I just try to blot my lips out so there's not harsh lines. And it all kind of just blends together. So this powder that's been sitting on my face, we are going to go back through with my powder brush, and we are just going to brush the excess powder away. Some of the areas where the powder has been sitting is probably going to be a little bit brighter because it's been sitting for a while. Next, we're going to go in with basically an all over the face powder. So this is an alternative to the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. It's a little bit cheaper than MAC. I actually haven't used this a ton, so this is one of my first wear tests with this. I'm going in with my setting powder brush from Real Techniques, and then I'm just going to go under my eye and kind of all over my face. I'm kind of trying to fill in those like smile lines and everything as well, so you don't see any creases. With this powder, I usually go like a little bit lighter than my skin tone or around my skin tone, so it still gives me that like highlighted look, and it actually gives you a really pretty finish. And just like that, we're almost done. I'm going to go in with my Morphe setting spray. I'm shaking it out and it actually feels empty, so I had to test it out real quick because I was like, did this thing evaporate? And then we're just going to spray it all over the face. I don't use this setting spray a ton, but I do like it. It just feels like really light and misty. It almost kind of reminds me of like the Huda Beauty Glow setting spray, at least the way that it mists. So I know everybody didn't still wear highlighter, but I still wear highlighter. So we're going to go in with my Maybelline highlighter. It's molten gold. It's a little used and abused, which is why there's a piece missing. I'm going in with this Ulta highlighting brush. I'm going to dab right above my cheek and then right under my eyebrow. I really like that look. And a little definitely goes a long way with this product because it is pigmented. And then I will do a little bit on my nose sometimes just to give myself a little razzle dazzle. And this is the final look. I feel like I tried to break down pretty simply. Maybe I didn't. Let me know down below what you think. Leave me a comment. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one.